That's what I was gonna say. Whenever we there's a very specific time, like April through beginning of June, and then end of August through like end of beginning of October. I'm like, those are your prize times. So like then I can maybe guarantee it.
Yeah.
So that's just a, so it's
Makes me sad.
Changes the same thing.
So come. And I went in here for one time.
but the way that you do it. So we just wanna know how you know. Once we receive the prize.
Alright.
So no transition will be made.
Very specific way to see it. There's a PA staff. It's just like $1,000. Yes, it's still these really.
No, I put it on.
This is the third right thing.
Yeah.
This is where it's like, we put it back in. Yes. All the shopping, it's $1,500 for the
In the meantime, we will just.
hour.
Okay, before I call this meeting to order, I'm going
Recording
to
in progress.
apologize to everyone for being late. Okay, it is now 10:30 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Here. Here. Thank you. Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask people if they can stand if they, do the pledge if they want. If not, they can observe a moment of silence. Director Antila.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Now it's time for public comments. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments?
We have not anyone wishing to make comments. Please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Deputy General Manager Michael Savannah, please lead us through the agenda.
Item number 1 on the agenda is to accept the minutes of the June 10th, 2025 Infrastructure Operations and Environment Committee meeting. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comment on this item?
We have not anyone wishing to comment on item 1. Please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
I'd like to make a motion to move the item.
Okay, now second. Next item, please.
Item 2 is to receive a presentation on the status of the 2025 10-year Infrastructure Improvements and Management Plan and recommend that the Board of Directors adopts the plan. Doesn't say it here, but do we have any public comment on this item?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone wishes to comment, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. None. We have none.
Okay, we have Judy Chin, our Planning and Support Services Manager here. We also have Ray David from Corolo here to provide this committee with a presentation on the Infrastructure Improvements and Management Plan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Deputy General Manager Michael Savannah, Chair of Arado, and Director Ventila. Good morning. My name is Judy Chen. I'm the Planning and Support Manager with IMP Department. Today, we would like to present you 2025 West County Wastewater 10 years Infrastructure Improvements and Management Plan. This is formally known as 2024 Master Plan. We changed the name of the document because it fits better with the description of what this document is really about. And today, we're going to present a breakdown into 4 different sections. We're going to talk about the background of this document and where we started and how do we come up to today's document, as well as the vision, goal, and level of services. Ray David, the project manager from Corolo, will present you the update of the document as well as the next step. So we started this project. So the primary goal of this document is to assess and evaluate the entire West County wastewater infrastructure and facility so that we can meet the long-term needs. And once we have that assessment ready, we can recommend the future capital improvement planning. So that's the goal of the entire document. So we started this project back in July 2023. That's when the board approves the contract and we signed the contract with the Corolo engineer. We went through the entire solicitation process. And once the process has been completed, we present it to the board and the board approves the contract. So we started this contract back in July 2023. And throughout the last 21 months, we have completed the 30% review, 60% review, and 90% review on time and according to the schedule. And throughout this time, we also bring in the presentation to the IOE committee as well as the board of directors meeting so that the board of directors has the latest information of the status of this project. We are expecting to present this document to the August board meeting for adoption and approval. So that's the goal. So throughout the last 21 months, there has been a lot of activity about this project. We have about total engagement of 45 sessions, and that's including every month. We have a monthly meeting with the Corolo, the consultant who provides the status update. We also have multiple technical workshop, in-person workshop, as well as the training. So throughout the 21 months, we have about roughly about 45 engagement section. Vision, goal, and level of services. So this is just a process of how we establish the vision, the value, and the mission, and also establish the goal that align with the strategic plan. So this presentation is probably a little bit different than the one that we put it on the website, just because last Wednesday, July the 2nd, the Board of Directors approves the latest strategic plan that will start fiscal year 26 to 2030s. The infrastructure improvement and management plan also incorporate the 10 years capital improvement project plan, which is generated and managed by the capital improvement manager, Angela Andrews. So she has constantly been facilitate and also provide the information about the capital projects so that we can incorporate that into this plan. The goal that we have incorporated into this plan is also aligned with the goal that established by the board. So it's no different than the 6 goals that we have established. And so the first one will be infrastructure optimization, environmental leader, fiscal responsibility, integrated system and innovative solutions, organizational capacity and development, and last but not least is the engagement, partnership, and advocacy. So these are the 6 goals that the Board of Directors has approved and adopt, and we will make sure that it is also part of the plan that we will be presenting. So the next 2 sections will be updates and the next step, and I will hand it over to Ray David from Corolo Engineers.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you everyone for allowing me to speak today on behalf of Corolo and the work they've been doing with, in collaboration with West County on the 2025 10-year infrastructure improvement and management plan. So as Judy noted, I'll provide an update on kind of the last time we spoke to the IOE committee. The last time we spoke to the IOE committee on this, which was October of last year, and give you an update on what we've done since then to kind of get to the kind of the nearing final point that we are here today. So one kind of important item that I wanted to highlight is that as part of this effort, very early on, as Judy noted, during the process of starting off this planning effort, was coordination with other jurisdictions that are within the West County Wastewater Service Area. As part of this planning document, we created or updated and created a new collection system model for the entire collection system that West County Wastewater has and services. And an important part of this piece is that this is a planning document, so we wanted to look 10, 20 years into the future. And a part of that is kind of looking at what is going to happen within the cities and the county within the service area. So we reached out to the city of Pinole, the city of Richmond, for instance, the county, to look at what are their plans for the areas that are within the West County Wastewater Service Area to make sure we understand, are they going to be changing any of their zoning? Are they going to be redeveloping any land in these different areas to make sure that is properly included and assimilated within the collection system model. So as you can see here, that was a big part of this, especially very early on, because we had to build a model understanding what that future planning need is going to be. So we reached out to all these different jurisdictions, and they provided us their land use plans over the next 20 years that we can then use to facilitate our development of the collection system model, so we understood where there might be some capacity needs existing based on the current collection system model, but also in the future when we kind of sized it to what the actual plan that these different cities and the county has in the future. So some major items within the service area that have been kind of flagged by the cities and the county are kind of shown there on the bottom. I think a major one is the Hilltop Mall redevelopment. In the city of Richmond, you can see kind of a commercial development that is kind of tied to and adjacent to that Hilltop Mall development, as well as different housing developments throughout the cities and the county that So again, this information was provided by the cities and the county, and this was kind of included within the process, the collection system model, to make sure that we understood, again, what the needs were, whether pipes were, as they're existing, sized correctly, and if in the future, when these developments came into, came online, whether the system would be able to handle that, and if not, what the future need would be in terms of a need to upsize or add new pipelines into the collection system to address that needed capacity and conveyance. So again, the plan developments are expected to be developed and contribute to an increase in overall wastewater flows to the WQRP. We wanted to make sure that we can get from the source, obviously, to the plant in a kind of necessary manner. So in terms of the overall just kind of metrics here, in terms of the service area growth over the next 20 years, which was the horizon, we're looking at about 758 additional residential dwelling units, over 67.2 acres, and then new industrial, commercial, or institutional land will be developed or redeveloped over 123 acres within the overall service area. So this is kind of based on, again, what's been shared with us by the cities and the counties. Obviously, things may have developed since we had talked to them. They gave us some of this information, so some of these items may change a little bit, and we are kind of flagging anything that we are finding from that process, because the model had to be developed at some kind of starting baseline point. But these are kind of some of the numbers that we're hearing from them, or we've heard from them at this stage. So this is, again, the collection system hydraulic model, looking at it from InfoWorks ICM, which is the new model that is part of the overall kind of collection system hydraulic model. This kind of just shows in all the red pieces there, the different laterals and then kind of main trunk line sewers that come into the system, and then obviously all the way flows to the WQRP. So again, this was based on the existing information that was shared via kind of GIS at the very beginning, and then we built this into InfoWorks ICM, and then read the different scenarios on there to look at how this collection system would respond to different wet weather and dry weather events to make sure that the capacity was at the correct level. And then kind of flipping to what, where the collection system obviously provides and kind of presents water to at the WQRP. We also kind of produced a process model. So this was built in BioWin. So as opposed to the of the influent kind of conditions of the wastewater, be that TSS, BOD, any other characteristics, and then making sure that it adhered to the permits that are required from the effluent side of the process model. Of important note we wanted to highlight was that the Clean and Green Project process units are included within the process model. So we did look at the process model kind of in full kind of development of the Clean and Green Project units, looking at what their design criteria are going to be to make sure that we kind of determine what might be needed in the future. Again, looking at the next 10 to 20 years as the collection system similarly looked at kind of the future needs sort of the plant, look at what are the future flows based on population projections, to look at what the process model needed to push through it and whether there's capacity there to do and make those kind of treat the wastewater to the level necessary per regulations. And we also kind of looked at that overall from each process unit from primary all the way through to the end of the plant. And I think overall, a big highlight I wanted to share with everyone at the IU committee here was that because of the efforts that have already been done by West County with the RWIU project, making those upgrades, as well as the Clean and Green project, there hasn't been any major needs that have been flagged as part of this master planning effort, in terms of the plant, because a lot of those efforts have made it such that, the new watershed permit that's been recently released, the new one that comes into play in 2035, the plant's in a really good shape to address those needs with the current existing infrastructure. And some of the key features of the plan here are addressing aging infrastructure. So this is kind of looking at, as part of this planning effort, we did a condition assessment, kind of an overall condition assessment of the plant and the collection system at the lift station, so making sure above grade assets. But we also did kind of a desktop analysis of the collection system based on age of the collection system in different areas, as well as expected kind of remaining useful life of that pipe, that size over that useful life, and then determine when that aging infrastructure maybe need to be replaced. So that helped us address where the needs are going to be, and that helped us develop the CIP plan that's part of this planning document. Again, a lot of that is driven by aging collection system infrastructure, and the intent is to really improve the overall reliability and capacity of the system to address SSOs, but also address the future needs that are required as part of the collection system, as noted previously, based on data shared with us from the service area. Now, we also were looking at kind of rebuilding with more efficiency and more efficacy and more cost effectiveness any process units or systems at the plant or the collection system that required replacement, such as pumps or mechanical pieces within the plant. And then for the WCW facilities, we are looking at, as part of the CIP plan, optimizing and developing a future space needs and a cost assessment to really address the needs and kind of requirements of the facilities moving forward here at Hilltop and at the WQRP site. And the second kind of key feature of the plan was to look at identifying potential performance areas that can be improved for, again, added efficacy, efficiency, but also added cost savings. So as an example, again, there was no regulatory driver that required a new project at the WQRP, but in coordination with the WCW team, we identified that, for instance, side stream treatment, so taking kind of a small portion of flow that is highly loaded with BOD or TSS, and putting that through a treatment process via side stream treatment could provide a lot of benefit potentially in terms of reducing overall costs, because it means that the entire plant flow that comes into the influent does not have to get treated to the same level. You kind of address this very highly loaded flow that's coming back to the head of the plant, and overall reducing the energy potentially of aeration to the bulk treatment of the influent side of the plant. So that was one of the projects that we've identified, and as part of this, identified different stages in the CIP plan where that can be further evaluated to determine the need for that moving forward. So those are, again, the two major features was addressing the aging infrastructure, kind of putting that on a timeline for repair and replacement as needed based on the condition assessment results and any regulatory drivers, but also identifying opportunities for performance improvements within both the collection system and the plant. In terms of completed steps, Judy kind of touched upon many of these already, but we completed the model, so the collection system hydraulic model, which is what I started talking about at the very beginning, and then the WQRP process model, which is the BioWind model. Then also we completed different training sessions. We wanted to make sure that these models were not just going to be standalone, kind of isolated models that no one has the opportunity or kind of background or knowledge to use in the future. So there was models, trainings for both the collection system model, so the hydraulic model system, as well as the WQRP model, two-day trainings for each of those. And those are recorded and shared with Judy and Armando, so those are available so staff can look at those in the future if they want to reference them for any future training or to look at the model, or if they want to kind of tinker with it themselves, they have the opportunity to learn from those training sessions. And as Judy kind of noted, that since the last time we had chatted on the plan, we had renamed it to better, again, match kind of the intent and what the actual kind of document kind of encompasses from the 2024 master plan to the 2025 WCW 10-year infrastructure improvements and management plan. Again, that better, I think, synthesizes down what the intent is of the plan and what each of the volumes, the plant, the collection system, the WCW facilities kind of encompasses in the drive of each of those different plans. And then finally, just a list of workshops that were conducted since the last IOE committee meeting. We had workshops for the WQRP and the collection system, continuing to go through the different alternatives. So for each kind of phase or project where we identified a need, we did look at, based on the goals that Judy had mentioned earlier on in this presentation, we were looking at, okay, what are the different options? If this alignment is in an area that's going to be very difficult for us to construct or kind of rebuild in the future or dig up, for instance, because now there's houses in that area or there's other kind of restrictions. What are some of the different alternatives to reroute the flow or get the flow from point A to point B in a more effective manner from a constructability standpoint, from a cost standpoint? So we did that for both the collection system and the plant to really identify that. So those are the different workshops that are listed there. The first three at least. Then the latter one was then kind of determining what is the final recommendations. So looking at what are we going to put in the CIP plan, which alternative are we selecting. But then we did, as part of the entire document, which is a pretty lengthy document overall, we do keep all of those different alternatives in there. So in the future, if conditions change, WCW can always go back and say, oh, what did we look at for that alternative in that section of the collection system? Let's go back to that other alternative that we didn't think was the right fit, but now because of change conditions might be a better opportunity for us moving forward. And then here's kind of the other completed steps since we last chatted, the 90%, 100% kind of plan overall document, and then the overall monthly progress meetings that Judy mentioned. So this was, in all intents and purposes, definitely a team effort working with WCW to identify, for instance, as Judy noted, the strategic plan that recently was adopted, making sure that is properly kind of included within this plan so that we're not having and referencing an older document that's no longer active. We're making adjustments to the plan, for instance, to address and kind of comment on that so that that's included within this planning document. And then all those monthly progress meetings were useful to just continue to get updates from our end, sharing with West County and vice versa, so we move this forward kind of in a collective and a comprehensive manner. And then in terms of next steps, the next steps of this plan are, as Judy mentioned at the top here, ultimately getting board adoption of the plan, and then implementing this ultimately within WCW's CIP based on the different factors listed here, but not limited to prioritization and importance of the different projects that are listed to the organization. Obviously, funding availability, making sure that there's funding available to fund the projects that we're listing here, and then regulatory requirements, particularly at the collection system and the plant, making sure that anything that's required from an NPDES permit standpoint is something that is included in the plan, and there's enough planning, and there's costs associated with it within the CIP plan. So with that, that's kind of the presentation that Judy and I had to share with you all today, and happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. A lot of information, a lot of good information. Director Mantilla, questions, comments?
Yes. So I've been dealing with Hilltop Mall for a couple decades now with the owners, and the numbers that I saw, the numbers have grotesquely gone up by far. The density levels in Hilltop are, it's more than 10,000 units of housing. And then it's zoned for mixed use, so you have retail on top of that, and a little bit of commercial. Mm-hmm. My question is that if our plant can't sustain that, that's just Hilltop Mall. We're not talking about other cities. We're just Richmond. We service, what, 3, 4 other cities. What happens if our plant is too, cannot handle that quantity? Does it fall on the ratepayers, or does a developer pay for that? And do we expand the plant?
Okay, maybe I'll start with the beginning part of that question, where the development that you noted at Hilltop, what we received from the city of Richmond was kind of what they have zoned for that at this, this current time. But we've also been addressing kind of recently kind of what their plans are and what they're looking to do there. And that's kind of part of the model. So the modeling effort that we do include in there. So some of the numbers maybe are going to be adjusted a little bit in the final planning document, because there is some evolution, or significant evolution, as you noted, from looks like is going to happen at Hilltop, but maybe isn't fully documented within the city of Richmond's planning documents yet. But that is part of the planning, I guess, the process model, the hydraulic model that was part of the collection system, was to address what may happen with Hilltop. So to address that model, just kind of look at what may happen with Hilltop based on those different density needs, to make sure that as part of the CIP plan that's part of this planning document, does address the need for added or expanded infrastructure for the collection system, including those costs within the CIP plan. So it is kind of baked in, I guess, so to speak, to the plan that the board would ultimately approve, or I guess kind of give the thumbs up to, is that the Hilltop kind of development and where that's looking to go. Obviously, because they haven't, it seems like, at least the documents that have been shared, haven't fully kind of gabbled down on this is for sure what we're going to be doing. We've kind of had to use kind of the latest and greatest information to kind of identify what they have been telling us to move that forward. But then we have kind of included in there that there is a lot that could happen, and it could become, like you said, much more residential, less commercial than, or that's probably where it's going, obviously, based on their plans. And that's something that we are kind of documenting within the plan, and making sure that the CIP plan and the costs and the needs from the collection system side kind of address that. And then to your question about the plant, we then do look at what the flows from the collection system then ultimately get to the plant. So it does include that development and what that development may look like in terms of the amount of flow that would add to it. And as you noted, that's not the only development. We do look at all the other developments, and we only listed a couple there just for the sake of kind of condensing a little bit the discussion here. But everything that's been shared with us by the city of Pinole, the county, the city of Richmond, all of kind of these small kind of parcels here and there, or like the largest, development that you just mentioned at Hilltop, those are all part of the model to address what the flow would be going to the plant, and then identifying if the plant has the capacity to address that, and if it doesn't, then that is again part of the CIP plan, is to address adding capacity to address the needed flow.
Yeah, the city of Richmond will be presenting in October, November to the city council for approval. And they're up to 365 dwelling units per acre. They were talking about going up 60 stories. So it's a pretty significant change. But my point is that I just wanted to let ratepayers know that any increase from a new development will not be coming from the ratepayers themselves. It'll be.
So I think Ray has done a really good job of capturing the technical point and making the point that we've done the best we can with the information we have to incorporate all of those developments. And I'm gonna ask Justin, I'm sorry to catch you in the middle of something, if he can help us sort of sort out who's responsible for paying which portion of it, whether it's the developer or the ratepayers.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Good morning,
Thanks,
Justin
Justin.
Lovell, Deputy General Manager. So what you're discussing here, typically a developer would be paying the cost of increasing the capacity. So we have a couple different mechanisms that the developer would pay for that. So that would be through our capacity charges. So as part of the development, we, as West County Wastewater staff, we would have to look at, what they're going to be building. And so right now it's really conceptual, and we don't know timelines. And
Right.
so right now it says so many years out there. But typically a developer would be paying for any of those improvements. And so if there is a need to increase the plant capacity, like we're going to have to expand the treatment plant, a portion of that cost would be coming from the development. But there's a lot more factors into it. Things at a high level, the developers would be paying their share of any additional increased usage of our collection system and treatment plant.
I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Justin.
Director Rentila, so just to answer your question, again, Ray has answered a perfect answer from the technical side. So planning and support, we have a dedicated person sitting in the committee for the Hilltop Mall redevelopment. Every time there is a proposal comes in, we have an engineer look at the entire system to see if that will accommodate the flow coming into our system. So we constantly checking on the capacity-wise, and also making sure that if there's anything that is raising a red flag, right, we will probably want to start proposing or taking action, or maybe have a game plan in place, whether the developer is going to pay for the upsizing infrastructure, or is there any improvement that we need to make in-house. Yeah, so just want you to know that we constantly follow up with the progress that they have. And thank you for letting us know that they will presenting the final proposal in October. So we will take a look at that plan as well.
Yeah, I don't want to ring the alarm bell just yet, because there's a possibility that nothing will be built there as well. But it's always good to be prepared.
Always a possibility.
Yeah, we are always prepared. We want to